Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Runt's Career. Today's going to be a little bit longer of a video, but make sure and stick all the way through it as we're going to be playing our entire conference schedule. We're going to be seeing some of our first conference play of the series. These are teams we'll probably be playing against for the next couple of years, as well as teams we'll have to go through in the conference tournament to be making the NCAA tournament. But with our performance in the non-conference, we're currently projected to come out of the Patriot League and make the tournament. And some of our star players are looking like they might finish on the all-conference team. Jamal Banks on first team right now. Bill Crockett on second team. Notably, no Cedric Teal on either of the first two conference teams. But Bill Crockett also on first team defense and Jamal Banks with Cedric Teal on second team all defense. And our conference opener is actually against one of the top competition. They are the only other team to finish at or above 500 and rated pretty similar to us, so this should be a good start and a good test to see how we line up against the rest of the conference. The Bucknell faithful are rocking the Sajka Pavilion, as the Patriot League might not have as crazy of an environment as some, but still very passionate fans out there in the Northeast. Two of the top players in the conference matching up with Cedric Teal and Coleman from Bucknell. We'll get to see the third top player in the league, also a power forward from Lehigh, later in this video. Bucknell, like a lot of teams we see in the Patriot League, want to play a slower pace, but they're going to get off to a fast start in this one, hitting the first shot of the game. And this clearly rattles the Crusaders as they're unable to even inbound the ball to start the game. And in that first 20 seconds, Bucknell's coach sees something he doesn't like and starts making some changes. On the inbound now, Plummer flops but doesn't get the call, and they get an easy layup to go up 4-0. Our first real possession on offense, we're running some good action, but Crockett with a pretty tough layup attempt. Very big difference in intensity to start this game, as the Crusaders seem to assume they were just going to be able to cruise through the Patriot League, but Bucknell is amping up the pressure, and Coach Runt must not have had him ready for it. But Jamal Banks, always reliable, is going to knock down a three to get the offense going. Not much conference play to go off of yet, but it seems like Bucknell and Lehigh, both hovering around 500, are going to be our biggest competition in the Patriot League this year. As the Bison once again inbounding the ball, and Holy Cross once again not really doing anything on defense. These are ultimately the teams that we're going to have to get through to get to the NCAA tournament, so coming out looking sluggish and unprepared is not a good look for our odds. And it seems like it's both sides of the ball right now that are struggling, as we're just getting dominated. Coleman having a great day for Bucknell. Coach Runt going to get the team together and get them ready to go. Probably something that should have been taken care of before the game, but it seems to not really have much effect, as we are still not getting anything going on offense. And with 5 turnovers in the first 5 minutes leading to plays like these, the crowd going crazy, really an anticlimactic start to conference play. But this team feels like they are the most talented team in the league, so they're not just going to roll over and let Bucknell run away with this one. As Angelo hits a 3, and then we get a turnover with some physical defense, running the fast break, but it's just still a little sloppy as we end up turning the ball over again. And then Bucknell running the break gets a chance to add to their lead. But when we need a bucket, we always know we can turn to Jamal Banks, who pulls up here and hits a transition 3. That does bring some of our energy back, but not really under control energy, as throughout this possession we're just randomly jumping for joy, and it ends up in mistimed getting the rebound, and they get a second chance points. Something that's given us a lot of trouble is Bucknell's full court press, not something we saw a lot of in non-conference play, and you can tell, as we're just getting frustrated. Another turnover for Teal here, and he's pissed, fires the ball at the ref. But despite how bad we've looked at times this game, it's only a 19-point game, and a good end to the half could make it feel a lot more manageable in the second half. And it feels like they've woken up just a little bit, as Teal is isolating and then gets the ball back and hits a mid-range shot. A minute left, down by 15. We end up playing good defense, get a turnover, and we're going to run the break. Banks gets it inside to Crockett, who makes a nice layup. Last possession of the first half here. Good look from Banks, but he can't get it to go. Crockett gets the rebound. Teal from the elbow. That's his shot, and he's going to cut it to 13 for halftime. 10 points and 5 rebounds for our star in the first half. Early in the second half, we break the press really well here, and Teal not able to finish the layup, but gets his own rebound, pulls it back out, shoots the jumper, and can't get that either. I love the coach updates in this game. Sometimes they're a little generic, but it's always funny to see Coach waving his arms around and freaking out in the top left corner. You can see why he's upset, as Bucknell is still dominating on offense, and the Crusaders are still struggling with the press. Second half has unfortunately been more of the same. We're still struggling on defense. The crowd and the pressure are still having a very big impact, as Plummer throws it out of bounds, and Coach Runt's got a front row seat of that terrible play, and Bill Crockett phasing into the scorer's table. Bill's always got something weird going on. I'm not really sure how he's on the all-conference team, but he's a good defender. As Teal with a nice move, kick out to Angelo, and he knocks down the three. Still going to be quite an uphill battle to get back into this one, but you got to love the effort. Teal gets it out to Banks for a good shot, who doesn't make it, but then Teal's back on the boards and puts it back up. Still down 15, but this is why we like to play at a little faster tempo. Keeps us in games for longer and gives us a little more window to make comebacks. But unfortunately, the effort that we saw last possession does not carry over, as we give them about 100 layups, but luckily they miss all of them. And on the fast break on the other end, Damon Angelo generously gives them the ball back one more time. And this is just not how you want to try to make a comeback. Unfortunately, the sloppy play continues here and for the rest of the game, as we're going to end up losing, really in an embarrassing manner. Not that we were necessarily super high favorites, but we looked very good in non-conference, and you can tell we overlooked them. But this team knows how to hit a shot to make a lead slightly smaller in a blowout loss. A lot of games to get through here though, so we're going to continue simulating. We got a matchup against American on the road here, which we are quite a bit better than, and we end up winning by 22. And then to follow that up, we're going on the road to Army. But as I load into the game here, I noticed that our overall was lower, which usually means an injury. And unfortunately, it was an injury to one of our star players, Jamal Banks. Really bad news, as we clearly are not as far ahead in the conference as we thought, and we're going to be missing one of our top two players for a lot of conference play. And this is not a team with a ton of depth, so we're going to have to move Chuck McKenzie into play small forward, move the bench around a little bit, and we're just going to have to make it work for a couple weeks. But we do win against Army, and now we get to go to Navy, who's another high-ranked team in our conference. As we jump out to a good lead in the first half, sticking up by 10 to 15 points throughout most of the first half, but they come back a little bit down the stretch. Looks like Teal's having a good game, McKenzie's having a good game, lots of good rebounding, and we're up by 10 with just under a minute left, and we end up winning by 11. Alright, a whole bunch of simming here so we can get through our conference schedule. We get wins over Lafayette and Colgate, another one over Army, and then one more over Lafayette before our next matchup against Bucknell. It would appear that this could be a very consequential game, as Bucknell undefeated in conference. We've played a couple more games, but we do have that loss head-to-head. This could end up being a preview of the conference championship game. We get out to a good lead at home. Clearly they had a good home crowd, we do too, so that's could be the deciding factor on these regular season matchups, and we end up getting them back with about a 20-point win, despite a slow game from Cedric Teal. Looking through some notable performances, Brett Plummer with 14 assists against Army and then 16 assists against Navy leading the way. Damon Angelo stepping up in Banks' absence against Colgate with 24 points on good shooting. And the second Army game, Cedric Teal with just a dominant performance once again, 39 points, 16 rebounds here. And the second matchup against Colgate led by Teal and Angelo. And unfortunately, we were supposed to get Banks back at this point, but the issue is lingering. Luckily, the schedule is going to slow down a little bit, so he should only miss one more game. And with the big break between games, we had a ton of games in January and not very many in February. But you can see that we get off to a little bit of a rusty start against Navy, and only up by a couple points at halftime, but really pull away in the second half and get a dominant win. And another great game out of Teal, leading us to be undefeated even without Banks since that Bucknell game. Really good bounce back after it was not looking good to start it off. But Bucknell has fallen off a little bit, and it looks like the new main challenger for the conference is going to be Lehigh. Navy also playing pretty well in conference. It looks like the top four teams are going to be the threats come conference tournament time this year. Going into the Lehigh matchup, we get some good news as we're going to get Jamal Banks back. Really impressed with the team that we were able to be so dominant without him. And because of that, this game against Lehigh is going to be on national broadcasts. Technically, every game is either on CBS or ESPN in this game, but they'll still give you updates as if you're a smaller school and you get a nationally televised game. And we're definitely going to have to be ready for this one. We saw they're pretty highly rated, and they have the best rated player in the entire conference with Gilliam at power forward there. Another conference championship preview potentially as no game audio, but I wanted to give you the ESPN nationally televised feeling. But we saw how it can go against one of the better teams in the conference if we don't come prepared, so we really need to start off better and set the tone in this one at home. The Hart Center is packed and rocking. These fans want to give their team an edge in this battle for the 1 seed in the Patriot League. Really love the energy that this crowd brings. We end up winning the tip and really looking to move fast to start the offense. Brett Plummer gives it to Teal, who finds Angel in the corner, who wants to get it going early but ends up missing. And Lehigh very composed earlier on as Bobby Gilliam hits a nice mid-ranger over Teal. And we're once again giving up the early lead, but a good opportunity in the fast break here. Brett Plummer is going to miss the 3, and then Angelo gets it off him and goes out of bounds. With the conference picture being a little more clear, we can see that these games are really important for what our path is going to be like to the NCAA tournament. Shouldn't have any problem in the first round, but getting to go through Navy rather than one of these two teams in the second round would be huge, as Bobby Gilliam stays consistent and hits another shot. He's 3 for 3 so far. Lehigh with a very similar play style to the one we struggled against in Bucknell, pressing, wanting to run a slower offense, but we're moving the ball around, get a decent look, miss it, but then Mackenzie's back on the boards, but then we miss another 3 in the corner. Not as ugly as the start against Bucknell, but some cold shooting for sure. Teal able to get the first field goal of the game for us. Lehigh, on the other hand, offense has been running well to start the game. They're swinging the ball around, finding good looks just like they do here. I think that's Gilliam once again. At this point though, we're 10 minutes in and we only have 6 points. We're breaking the press. Again, it hasn't really been sloppiness as much as just missing shots, but some good movement here on offense. Swinging the ball around, a little bit longer of a possession, but Plummer gets a good look, misses it, but Mackenzie's there to clean it up. Here we can see our field goal percentage though, as I think 7% is the worst percentage I've ever seen this far into a game. But this is why it's good to have Jamal Banks left. Luckily, didn't have to play any games live without him, and here he's able to hit a nice shot to get the offense going again. For as poor of an offensive start, we've done an okay job defensively. You can see they have 8 assists to our 1 and shooting a lot better than us. But defensively, we've been doing pretty solid. Only problem is right here. Bobby Gilliam is just dominating, getting to that spot every time. Offense starting to get going a little bit here, though. Anthony Parnell, kind of our extra big man if there's stamina or injury issues, hitting a nice hook shot here. And here's Coach Cam. He's telling their guy to get after it. Some weird mind games here, but unfortunately their guy does listen, and they end up getting a nice pocket pass to an easy jumper. Something to work on down the stretch here. We need to have a better plan against the press. Saw it against Bucknell and now seeing it against Lehigh. We just panic and struggle and turn the ball over. Defense continuing to keep us in the game. Lehigh showing that they are really impressive and going to be a tough team to beat with shots like these. Need to cut it in a little bit before the half. 15 points, not the end of the world, but with only scoring 14 points so far, this is a big miss. We're going to go down 15 and really need to get the offense figured out. Lehigh meeting all of their team goals, and we are really struggling to do that. Technically, we're spreading out the attack, I guess, but 3 players with 4 points isn't really doing that much. Got to give this crowd some energy, something to cheer for, and luckily to start the half off, we're starting with some pretty good offense, moving the ball around. Then Brett Plummer going to knock down a corner 3. Great way to start the half, as we know this team's not going to get down. They always think they're in a game until the very end, and Banks keeping that momentum going. Unfortunately, to start the half, the defense that was really keeping us in it the first half starting to struggle as we're jumping for no reason and giving them wide open layups for their biggest lead of the game. On offense, in the transition, not necessarily getting hot, but progressing back to the mean as Damon Angelo knocks down a transition 3. And here we get another steal, running the fast break. And Banks really feeling it, but can't get it to go. You could tell the crowd was just ready to go nuts if that went down. Lehigh, after weathering the storm, gets a 3 off of a screen to get it back up to 16. With 10 minutes left, no need to panic yet, but you can see a little bit of desperation. Holy Cross looking to win one of these ones as Damon Angelo chucks up not the best shot, and we're really struggling, as you can see there, from three. Not necessarily the best three-point shooting team normally, but 15% is just terrible. Staying active on defense though, making hustle plays, trying to cause chaos for their offense, but they're able to slow it down, get it to their best player, and of course he's going to make a tough shot, really killing momentum once again. Off of a timeout in the huddle, coach trying to get his team to calm down. It's not over yet, really showing a different side than we're used to seeing from Coach Runt. Followed up by seeing no Coach Runt, as Teal's big body's blocking him out. Cameraman's got to do a better job of showing the real stars. Teal hitting a layup on the fast break here. And that speech might have worked. We're starting to get the offense going again, calming down, making shots like this one, and maintaining that chaos on defense, really trying to force them into mistakes. Unfortunately, they're just a great team and handling it well. And with Lehigh making a couple tough shots to get the lead back to 21, the panic starts to come back in as we throw this ball away against the press. Clear frustration here, but with the game almost out of reach, the offense starts to get hot, starting with this bucket from Teal. Followed up by a pull-up Angelo three. Crowd's getting excited again. We get a transition open Banks three that he knocks down. And even as this game's likely over, Banks staying hot, knocking down another one to cut it to 11. But unfortunately, just too little, too late. Good to see him get hot, get some confidence and momentum though at the end, as we're going to be seeing Lehigh again very soon. And when we do, we're going to have to do a lot better job of limiting Gilliam. Unfortunately, Teal got outplayed by quite a bit in this one. With 3 games left on the schedule, we got American at home, and then we have a trip to Lehigh, and then one more to finish out the season against Lafayette. We get the win over American with big performances out of Jamal Banks and Cedric Teal, both rounding into form to end the season and get ready for conference tournaments. Both those guys trying to make their case for all conference. Obviously, Banks missing a lot of time and Teal in a tough competition against other power forwards in the league. But here we get off to a slower start against Lehigh, but able to creep back into it, go back and forth for a lot of the second half, pull ahead a little bit, and then ends up being a 72-72 tie with 3 minutes left. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this one. Starting off, breaking the press, Plummer cutting through it and giving it to Crockett for a layup to give us the lead. But who else but Bobby Gilliam? ISOing, we're giving him space, but he drives it anyways and hits a nice spin move to get the layup. Lehigh with not quite the home court advantage that we have, or Bucknell, for example, but it's not going to matter as they just have a lot of talent on their team, knocking down a 3. But we get right back at him with a full court pass and a big 3 from Jamal Banks. Next time down, Crockett gets good defense and we get the stop. We're getting it up the court fast with Teal. He's got a chance here with a little post up. Doesn't go anywhere, but he just pulls up and knocks it down to give us the lead under a minute. And in a big spot here, we force a turnover, and now we got a lot of time, only a 7-second difference, so we're going to run some clock. Really moving the ball around, but we got to make sure we still get a good shot. But there's really not much time, and Banks is forced into a tough 3 that he misses. Lehigh gets the rebound and calls a quick timeout to set up their offense. I don't know if we'll get the 1 seed here if we win out, but it's still a huge game. They're not in too much of a hurry getting it up, but they're going to find a good shot anyways for the win. No good. We're able to beat Lehigh in their home stadium in a huge win that came down to the last second. That's a great feeling. Cedric Teal outperforming Gilliam in a huge end of the season, big momentum going into the conference tournament. But one of the pitfalls of this team has been overlooking opponents off of big wins, and unfortunately at home against Lafayette, we do drop one, also missing out on a facility upgrade on the way. So we had a lot of momentum, a little bit tampered at the end, but still feeling good going into conference tournaments. But we wrap up the regular season at 23-6. Great first year for Coach Runt at Holy Cross. 11-3 in conference. Next video, we're going to get to see how we finished in the conference standings, what the path to the tournament is going to look like through the Patriot League, and also check in on some awards and postseason, all conference, things like that. I'm really excited. We're going to the conference tournament. Probably the most fun part of this game is the conference tournament, and then should we make it that far, the NCAA tournament. And it's not going to be easy by any means. We saw what we looked like live against Bucknell and Lehigh, so it's going to be a challenge. We're going to have to earn it. I'm going to do everything I can to get that video out next Monday on schedule. I am getting towards graduation, and it's getting really busy with my class schedule and things like that, so I hope you understand if it's a little late, but I'm going to try really hard to get that out next Monday. Thanks for watching, everybody.